Hello again. I'm Ridcully. This is Ridcully's book review. This is book number 3 that I've reviewed. Today I want to talk about Live Free or Die by John Ringo. This is one of my favorite books. I went back, I've read the books 2 or 3 times. Ringo is one of my favorite authors. He very conservative in his viewpoints. He's always calling out pussy liberals. So if you're offended by politics in books and you're a liberal that's offended by being mocked and you feel like he is mocking you personally, that's probably one of the reasons he hasn't won a Hugo or a Nebula or one of the rewards, is because he's very politically incorrect. Of course, the flip side of that is he's very positive with conservatives. My political standing doesn't really matter in books. I've read liberal authors and loved them, and liberal authors and hated them. You know, good is good. But just to let you know, Ringo does have political commentary, and a lot of it's very well done. Some of it's arguable, but that's politics. This book is set slightly in the future, when another race brings a ring into our system, and a way to now travel, between solar systems, and it comes in about the same technology as we have, currently 2017, when we really don't have much of a space program. We have capabilities of it, but we're still waiting for technology and computers to advance farther, so it'll be much cheaper before we start exploring space. And then all of a sudden, we don't have the luxury of waiting anymore. And then it goes through, and one of the main theories kicked around in science fiction and science is that could a race that achieves space technology be a warlike race? My personal opinion is, of course they can. It's just silly to think that somehow science is going to make the entire human race altruistic. I don't even know why that's an argument, but it comes into play a little bit, and that now that other species can come through this ring, are they going to be aggressive, or are they going to be benevolent? And that sets up the story for Live Free or Die, and what races come through and what happens, and some of the possibilities of different things. It's an excellent book, one of my favorites. There's a few points that I'll talk about in the spoiler section here in just a second, but if you just wanted to get an opinion and an overview, science fiction, alien contact with alien races, just kind of ignores the science of how it happens. It just says it happens. It's probably the smartest way to do it. And the interactions between them, like I explained a little bit, if you're bothered by a conservative author and a conservative viewpoint, you're not going to like the books. And I suspect there's a lot of people that don't. If you don't care, you're conservative, they're really good books, really enjoyable, has a lot of space. It's military fiction. It's military science fiction. So, kind of in the same genre of Heinlein, Starship Troopers, books like that. Now I'm going to go through and go into the spoilers, and get a little bit more specific in the book. I mentioned a little bit before that a ring comes into the system, and it starts out, and it's got a couple of hilarious bits where the ring's coming into the system, and at first we don't have the means to really even see what it is or tell what it is. We just our telescopes space is huge. We're not. There are so many things out there that we, don't see. I mean, we can't even see most of the objects in the Kuiper Belt, much less the Oort cloud. Comets come in out of them, and once in a while we see them, but it's theorized that there could be trillions of objects out there, and we can't see them. So it's coming in, and we get a glimpse of it, and it's like, all right, there's a new comet, there's something coming in. Then the next time that, they go to look for it, it's gone, and it creates a panic, because how does an object coming in disappears? And it's because it's changed its velocity, and therefore it creates a scenario. And what was it? Dr. Martin, when they figured out that it changed its velocity, Dr. Martin's like, we need to be very cautious. And then before you continue on, Chris blurts out, "It's a spacecraft!" I found that to just be hilarious. I relate to Chris in that scenario. Everybody's going, we gotta be really careful about this. And I'm just out there, hey everybody, we got a spacecraft. I just put it on Facebook. I got a kick out of that part. Really related to it, but this ring comes in. They even call it the Halo ring, which I've always loved. And then, the Halo ring world. But instead of a world, it's a gate. It's a gate to another system, and we just get a recording. They don't even talk to the Earth. The Earth is so low down on the importance and galactic importance. Nobody even talks to the Earth. They just play a recording that says basically, you can't use any weapons around the ring. Can races come through the ring? Yes. Can you block the ring? No. Can you use the ring? Yes. You'll be charged for it. Can enemies use the ring? Yeah. That's it. It's just a doorway. It's there. You got it. And then that kicks into the debate. Well, if they're saying races, of course they've got to be benevolent. And everybody's like, well, considering the top warning was enemies can come through, I'm betting you're wrong. It's like, yeah. And so the first ship that comes through is I picture them like that says they have snouts and they're kind of gray skinned. So like the quintessential little alien man, except he's got a snout instead of a flat face. But they come through, and that's just an exploratory ship. They say hi, they look at the Earth, and are like, well, we're here, you have nothing we want, so see you around. Well, and then the next race that comes through is a hostile race. It's the Horvath. And they come through, and the first thing they do is they send 3 KEDs. And they hit 3 of the biggest cities: Mexico City, Shanghai, and Cairo, I believe. Before they even talk to us, they just take out the cities. It's just like, it establishes right off that these guys are, just utterly despicable as far as, their benevolence. And they demand all the Platinum's groups on Earth. I'm just going to go ahead and stop right here and touch base on this whole idea. I love the story. I love the book. So many other books have been based around the idea in science fiction that why does an enemy race come and invade a planet? And the excuse many times over has been that came for our gold, that came for our platinum groups, that came for our precious metals. And I've never understood, there is, in science, in chemistry, you can never gain or destroy matter in a chemical reaction. It is what is ignored all the time, especially in science fiction, is that mass can be gained, altered, destroyed in a nuclear reaction. And if you've got the science to move interstellar distances, you've got the ability to set up colliders and do these nuclear reactions and basically create your platinum groups. Plutonium in a breeder reactor, it is made from uranium. If you have the science, if you have this type of energy to run a spaceship across galaxies or even across solar systems, you've got the ability to make all of these platinum groups. And I throw that out because that's something that's always bugged me, but it's got to be forgiven. It's a reoccurring theme in science fiction. I'm hoping some author comes out and addresses it at some time. But anyway, the Horvath comes through and they want our platinum groups. They're very valuable. And they demand it. They've KED'd, which basically is a nuclear type, destruction of some of our cities, and we're screwed. We got space shuttles, could maybe make it to the moon if we had to. The ring is put into the L2, this second Lagrange point, which isn't one of the stable points, so I don't know why it would be put there, but whatever. Once again, it's one of the Lagrange points. That's where it is. It does have the ability to move around, so it could stay in the Lagrange point, L2 point. We're at the mercy of this other race, and their computer systems, and we have really no choice. We start giving them all of our platinum groups, and we're trying to get the other benevolent races that come through to come and help us, and we find out later, but why they won't help us, but they won't help the Earth. And the science and the politics that he goes through is really well done. It comes to find out later on in the book, you find out that the reason that they won't help us is because their society is in the decline, based on societies, democratic, free societies, human societies, basically. There's a growth, there's a period of power and glory, and then they usually go into decline. A part of the decline of these civilizations is their overspending a lot of times, their welfare programs, their expansion stops. They become so big, so cumbersome. Like Rome is the quintessential example. That without the expansion and without the gaining new riches, and then trying to maintain a level of wealth in the society, at the same time having part of the society withholding much of the wealth, it falls in upon itself, and that's where the society is. What on earth was their names? The Ridcully was the ring people. I can't remember. As soon as I remember, I'll mention it. But we're trying to get him to help us, and then comes in the main hero of the story, Tyler Vernon, and the Glatoon. The Glatooner who we're trying to get to help us. They were the first ones to come through the gate. They're the biggest space policy, but they have no interest in helping Earth. And they're doing a visit, and it's a tramp freighter. These guys are like the lowest of the low in Glatoon society. They're really just trying to find anything to make a dime on. They're like traveling pawn shop brokers. They've bought Starry Night, they bought the Mona Lisa, they bought the Venus de Milo for basically computer circuitry. And the computer circuitry is supposed to be like something the size of a quarter, is more powerful than every computer combined in the Pentagon. And they're worth billions of dollars for handfuls of this computer circuitry which we find out later on is old and it's crap to them. But to us, it changes things. We're trying to establish trade. We're trying to get their help. Trying to find some way to trade with them, and we just have nothing. And Tyler Vernon says, give me a shot. Come by. And he's impoverished. He used to be big in the sci-fi community. He portrays that once the gate opens and there's real science fiction, the sci-fi community crashes. Arbitrary. I don't think it would. I think it would grow, but whatever. It's part of the story. And he's got all these samples when he meets with the Glatoon. And he's smart enough to bring them all, and he's hidden what they are. And the Glatoon's going through, and all of a sudden they go crazy over this one sample. And it's like the semi-drug alcohol to them. And they have to have it. They want to trade for it. Finally, we found something to trade. And it turns out that it's maple syrup. It is like a super alcohol to them. And so we establish trade, and Tyler Vernon. Here is where the politics in the book I have to wonder about, because, and the more I think about it, the more I think it does work. He found something. He does a quick trade, and he hides, and he's only able to trade like a pickup load, but he gets so much of this billion-dollar circuitry in trade for this pickup load of syrup that he's instantly able to kind of lock down a trade, lock down a deal, where he's the guy that they got to come to, and it says in the book he becomes instantly the richest man in the world, and then he uses the money from these first deals to buy up all the maple syrup that he can for the entire crop, and trying to do it hidden before the Horvath figure out that the substances, the maple syrup, is of value, because then they'll just demand a lot. They are the platinum groups, and he has the money. He sold them to private companies. The government knows about it, but they don't really step in. They're kind of like, what's going on? And in that hesitation, he gets them sold. He gets the money. And then later on, and he establishes himself. And then later on, and the whole book is about, once it is found out, the Horvath demand that we start giving it to him. And he makes this moral stand of, you know what, I'm not going to be your slave. We're not going to be oppressed by you. We're going to fight. But they really have no way to fight. The Horvath are in spaceships. They control the orbitals. And the U.S. government is somewhat supportive of him, and there's people against him, and he's kind of doing it fast. But then, the Horvaths are threatening, we're going to start destroying cities unless you give us this. So the government does step in, and they say, we're going to start taking this and buying it, and he's just like, well, we're going to fight the U.S. government. And that kind of bothered me. I'm just like, I don't think that would be possible. And then he explains it, that half of the army is in rebellion or semi-rebellion, even if it's just, like sick leave rebellion. They don't want to be attacking their own people, the Canadians, the Americans, over maple syrup, but at the same time, they know the value of it. It creates something, and through the whole book, the main theme is he's doing his best to fight, and he's got the governments of the world, really, but mostly the American government, saying, we can't support you. And at first I thought there's just no way that this would happen. They would eminent domain, they would take them, and in a sense they did. And the Tyler and all of them kind of fight them. They don't really shoot the soldiers, but they destroy their equipment. There is shooting going on. Soldiers don't really want to fight back. That, I don't know if I quite believe. But the more I thought about it, is what was really bothering me, is I remember Wickard versus Filburn. The famous United States Supreme Court case where the farmer grows his own wheat. He was on his own farm for his own animals, and the government fines him for growing too much wheat. And that's what established the government having so much power to come in and tell us what we want to do, and for until today. And I just like, nah, the government's already established they would come in. And I think of the Japanese internment in World War II. The government just goes in and takes thousands and tens of thousands of American citizens and throws them in our own internment camps. I'm like, yeah, it wouldn't work. But then I remembered he sold the stuff, and it said he was the richest man in the world. And I realized that's where the mistake I was making. It wouldn't work for us poor people. For the richest man in the world, he probably could get away with it. He would have the money. The money is the power. He could probably fight the Horvath and even influence the United States. And that is the only part of the book that did kind of bug me, that I really think that Ringo should have done a little bit more work on saying. I mean, it says that he went and he got insanely expensive lawyers to help him, and so it can be inferred that they're the ones going through, and it says that he gets lobbyists. I think that should have been fleshed out a little bit more, because that bugged me, and I've read the book about 4 times, and it was only this time that I really thought the only thing that makes it believable is he was the richest man in the world, multi-billionaire instantly. And he was smart enough to go and get the most powerful lawyers he could. So maybe he could, maybe he couldn't. But then the book goes on, and the coolest thing, and I don't know about the real science of this, he talks about there's an older book. I can't remember the name of it. He mentions it in there, where Tyler Vernon has been dreaming of it since he was a kid. Analog from the 1950s, where they go in and they pack ice inside of an asteroid, then they melt it, and the ice expands and it turns into a big sphere, and so you could make habitats that way. And he starts making, as soon as he gets this money, and he's trying to keep the Horvath off his back, and he does finally do it, and he gets the Glatoon, because they're afraid that all of the maple trees are going to be destroyed, to finally come in and have some importance and step in and tell the Horvath to back off. We're going to protect at least the maple syrup. And so it gives him a little bit of breathing room. The Horvath still want him killed. He's in hiding. He's trying to build up his empire. And he starts this space mining. And that's the premise of the book, He uses the maple to get rich and have some kind of trade. He uses the trade to start this space mining, where all it is mirrors. It's not really lasers, it's mirrors. He starts putting mirrors in the Venus orbit, and reflectors, and heating up asteroids and melting them and then pulling those off. But secretly, they're being used as lasers for all basic purposes. They're lasers, and he's building up their power, building up their power, building up their power, until they can also be used as a weapon. And then it's a combination of, can he build up this infrastructure and build up this weapon before the Horvath, finally get up enough nerve to defy the Glatoon and take out his weapons and just try and take the Earth back. And it's really, it's well done. I don't know about some of the science. The science is cool, the concept, and where it's never been done, you get to just go with it. Yeah, it would work. Space mirrors, space lasers, the politics, the Boeing. He's trying to get Boeing to make him shuttles, and the politics in the Air Force gives Boeing a little bit of money, so they try and make a space fighter, and then they use the space fighter to go up and fight the one Horvath ship at the start. I guess it makes sense, because it's like the only thing we got to even try when the one Horvath ship's coming in to fight. And so he goes up, they attack, they get we think that they've gotten lucky and hit it, but then when the space laser turns on the Horvath ship, we find out that the ships were nowhere near as strong as we thought they were. The laser just rips it apart. So it's just a constant battle back and forth between the politics, trying to get the support from the governments of Earth, at the same time keeping them from attacking what he's trying to do and take it away from him and destroy it. He makes fun of the politics and the hippies, saying, you know, you're destroying the asteroids, leave the asteroids alone, you know, and then going to the practical aspect of war of, yeah, we need mirrors, we need space lasers, if we don't want to be slaves, peace now movements. In the fights, the big cities get gutted, and as a lawyer, I did have to laugh that he does point out that the most destroyed aspect of society, the most jobs lost in any one profession was lawyers. He makes a couple of really good jokes about that. I enjoyed that. And then later on he does talk about how he incorporated in Tonga. So, and that did make me feel better too, because he's got the lobbyists and everything, but I figured, you know, you're the only person that's going to be making things. You know, how are you going to keep them from just taking it from you? So he is incorporated, you know, on an American territory. He made it hard, so that he does kind of explain it. The other part that I don't quite, I think should have been fleshed out a little bit more, was the economics. You know, at one point he says that the implants for a brain implant, you know, so that you basically have a computer in your mind so you can work with the Galactic Society. That there's a trade, you know, the value of space money to Earth money is 500,000 to 1 on a credit, and he pays about 500 credits, and then so it's, I can't remember, it's millions or even billions of dollars in credits, and then the gallons of maple syrup are worth 6,000 credits a gallon. So a gallon of maple syrup turns out to be worth, you know, several $billion. That's the only reason he can afford things. Then in the second book, jumping a little ahead, you know, the implants turn out to be worth $500,000. So by then, maybe the exchange rate has gotten better. You know, he jumps around, and I don't know if it's on purpose. So with the exchange rates, it made it confusing in the book to what things were worth, what you could get. You know, he tips the doorman when he goes onto the space station 10 credits. And, you know, he's just got done saying that each credit is worth about $500,000. So anyway, he tips the doorman $5 million, you know, 10 credits. When you think about it as 10 credits, you can understand tipping them like that. When you think of it as back home, it's $5 million. I can't wrap my mind around it. And I guess that's maybe what it's supposed to be. How a galactic economy could and probably would, at least initially, probably indefinitely, crush, completely absorb, take over the entire world economy. So it's a bit confusing. The one last thing before the main point of the book that did bother me, besides the economy, was when the ring, you know, this doorway to other systems first came in. One of the recordings was saying you can't use an energy weapon that could hurt the ring within 300,000 kilometers of the ring. And later on in the book, he says there's a 300-mile no interdiction zone where you're not supposed to fight. And so I think he screwed up, and so it's not clear You know, there's supposed to be the zone around the ring that you can't fight, but of course around the ring is where all the fighting is going to happen, and where the space station or Troy is being placed. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Everything. You know, there's no interdiction around the ring, but everything. The economy, the politics, the weapons, the mining laser, the Horvath, it is all setting up for building Troy. Troy is blowing up one of these asteroids to a huge size. 9.5 kilometers in outer diameter. To build a battleship, a battle station. It's not really mobile. They use nukes to move it around like a big billiard ball to try and get it stopped and set at the station. Basically, it's where all the lasers are going to be gathered up. Because right now, you know, when you come through, you have these mirror arrays, and it's pretty easy to start shooting them. You know, try and knock them down before they knock you down. But if the main beam is coming at you, the end beam is being focused and fired at you is in this huge asteroid sphere of nickel iron with 1.5 kilometer thick walls, which he says, you know, are taking these missiles, these kinetic missiles with megaton, of energy, you know, when they hit. That, I can't quite wrap my head around the math on that. I think that's wrong. I think when you're hitting, you know, even if it's, you know, 9.5 kilometers across with megatons of energy, I think it's going to be flying off and broke. But, you know, you go with it. You go with the story that it can't be. It's so massive. It's so huge. Trillions of tons. Even these nuclear type missiles aren't going to get into it. The way it's presented, when he finally presents it to the government, to the military, it is pretty awesome. And all this build up, so at the end, you know, the Horvath make this treaty with the Rangora. They get a bunch of battleships from them, and they come back to take back the Earth. And we've just barely got Troy positioned. It's starting to be worked on, but it's not really effective yet. Really cool scene. A little bit of silliness, and you know, the doors closing, and we've got this multi-billion-ton door being closed while this fleet's coming in, trying to get everybody inside the space station so they're safe. And of course, the shuttle shooting the gap has to be done. Every movie that's ever been around has done it. The problem is these shuttles are 400 gravities of acceleration, and it's coming in at 400 gravities. You know, the doorway's a 1.5 kilometers thick, and it takes a few seconds to get through the gap, and then is able, once inside, to somehow spin around, you know, the lasers and dodge the lasers, and heroic scene. But all you have to say is 400 gravities of acceleration. No. it would come through the door in a fraction of a second, much less a few seconds, and there's really, you know, if you're accelerating at 400 gravities for 10 seconds, and you shoot that gap at a portion of a second, you've got 10 seconds, you know, 9.5 seconds of deceleration at 400 gravities of acceleration before you can come to a stop, you know, and that's not going to be on the interior of a sphere. So the physics there were totally messed up. I gotta call BS on that. I hate that, but at the same time, you know, every action movie that's ever had a spaceship or an airplane, you know, going through a narrow opening has done it. So it was fun. Just turn your brain off as far as any types of physics or math when you think about it. But the Horvath are coming through. The Troys, you know, they're using the Ung beam, the final beam, the most powerful beam that they've got from the laser, to drill a hole so they can hurry and throw some colanders, which are going to take all this energy, and you know, so they can fire it and use it as a weapon. And the final battle. And what I was talking about a little bit before is, you know, there's supposed to be this. It's either a 300,000 kilometer, maybe it was supposed to be 300,000 meter You know, later on he says 3 miles, no interdiction. You know, there's some discrepancy on how far the fighting's supposed to be, but you know, in this final battle, they're using this Ung beam to attack the Horvath ships, and it's saying, you know, they're coming out of the gate or cutting them in half. So even if it's 3 miles, you know, it's ignored that there's not supposed to be any energy beams that can hurt the gate or any fighting within so close to the gate. When basically, you know, it's kind of like whack-a-mole. As soon as they come through the gate, we're attacking them. Doesn't he sets something up, and then he doesn't have, you know, you get fined. You know, what happens if you do fight within this 300,000 mile or 3 mile? It doesn't really matter because we're ignoring it anyway in this fight. And then the big battle scene at the end, and then at the end he does, you know, they uses the laser to after this baptism of fire to commission Troy, puts the Trojan, etches the Trojan helmeted Spartan on Troy and Winterborn, and it's cool. It's cool. It's fun. It's military fiction. Got a few problems on the physics. Got a few problems on the economics. Most of it could happen. Some of it no, but most of it could. Fun read. Fun read. Excellent book. Really cool ideas. Paints some really cool pictures. Paints some fun enemies. Stirs some fun intergalactic space fighting emotions. And anybody that reads science fiction, that's going to be part of what you're looking for. So definitely recommend it. Definitely buy it. Tell me what you think about it. Tell me where I'm wrong. I'd appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.